Guys, welcome. Thank you so much for coming back. We are going to do another live 20-minute pop-up. Have my good friend Nathan Turner here, and we are going to talk about the top 3 reasons why you should be adding notes into your investment strategy. So we're going to hit this quick. Nathan, come on. He's promised a ton of value. Nathan, first off, before we even get into that, like a lot of people don't even know what notes are. Like explain like quickly for those of us that aren't that smart or as smart as you, what does that even mean?
All right. So basically notes is where you buy the mortgage on the property instead of the property. So I don't own the house. I don't want to own the house. I'm just buying the paper attached to it. That is my collateral. So yes, we're doing some homework on that. Yes, that's involved in the transaction, but it's not real estate. It's finance. So we're buying the financing on the property.
So you are literally not dealing with tenants, trash, and toilets. You're just owning the debt. So there's a reason why Bank of America, Regions, and all these banks are making so much money. It's because they own the debt, right? They own the mortgage or the note.
Yeah, banks have the biggest building in town. That's why.
Very cool. So all right, let's get right into it. What's the number one reason why we should be adding that into our investment strategy?
Number one, you have to diversify. If you've been doing real estate, great. I've done real estate as well, and it's a great tool. And there are a lot of great things you can do in real estate. There's lots of advantages there, but at the very least, you need to diversify. You need to have this at the very least as a tool in your tool belt. You understand how notes work and what is like kind of the background behind it. Then that can allow you to do a whole lot more. So make sure you at least know how it works. If you've never worked with a financial calculator, you have to know how that works, just so you know what your options are going forward. There are a lot of different things you can do instead of getting stuck with one property.
All right.
It's a way out.
I love it. I love the idea of diversifying. In our stock portfolios, they tell us all the same things, right? Do not go with 100% Apple. Do not go with 100% risky stuff. Spread it out a little bit. And I love that, being diversified, so that if anything ever happens, I've got something else, right? Like we talk about this in real estate and picking markets. If any one sector crashed, I don't want to be all in on that. So cool. So fantastic. So diversification, love that. What would be number 2?
Number 2, I would say is one of the biggest advantages in my mind is I don't own the property. And to me, that's huge. I love not owning the property. I'm not responsible for the house, meaning I don't fix the roof. I don't fix the toilet. I'm like you said, I'm not dealing with tenants. I'm not dealing with termites. I'm not dealing with taxes. None of that stuff is my responsibility. So that's a huge advantage to me for notes. And so I highly encourage it just for that reason alone.
Yeah. But Nathan, as an investor, I'm going to and I know people are thinking this, like, that just sounds counterintuitive. Like I don't own the house. Like I can't even say it out loud without kind of twitching a little bit. Like, how do I know that I'm secure, and how do we know all of those things?
Right. So, and that's kind of where it breaks down. So let's say the house is worth, easy numbers, $100,000.
Right.
The unpaid principal balance, so the balance owing on the property, is $75,000. I'm going to buy that at some kind of a discount, call it $65,000. I already have a huge chunk of equity in there. There's my protection. There's my what if. So if something goes wrong and the person's not making payments anymore, my backup plan is always that property. So I have the option of getting to the property if I need to, but I would way rather not deal with all of the liability that goes along with owning the property and having to deal with it.
Yeah. But I mean, if somebody just stops cutting the grass and like abandons it, like at some point you would have to step in, maybe?
Yes, absolutely. If somebody stops paying whatever it is, whether it's the mortgage, whether it's insurance, all those things you collect up front, so you know if it's getting paid or not.
Right.
So if they do stop paying, that's kind of the beauty of it. It is that backup plan. So if something happens, I can go and start a foreclosure if I need to. More often than not, we start talking to the borrower and saying, okay, how can we fix this? How can we get you back on track? Because again, I don't actually want to own the property. So I would rather work something out and have them just making payments again. But if I have to, I can foreclose and take back the property and resell it,
Nice.
get my money back out that way.
Okay. So you're the overlord. you're
Yeah.
you're the king, they're the fiefdom, and you have the ability to certainly take that back through a foreclosure action or something like that. I love it. So not owning the property.
Right. I'm the bank. And so if
You're
you
the
think
bank.
about, again, banks have the biggest building in town. That's why. And yeah, they're a
Nice.
good
Cool.
model to follow.
All right. So what's the third reason that you should add notes into your investing strategy for this year?
I would say the third reason is because it's mostly passive.
Yeah.
If you've got a performing note, once you buy one of these notes where the person is making payments, there's not a whole lot you have to do. Where the work comes in is if they do stop paying. And that is definitely something you need to be aware of. That's something that is a real risk. And so you have to know that that is something that you can handle, that you know what to do in that kind of a situation. But for the most part, once they're making payments, they tend to continue making payments. It's default rates currently hover around 5%. And whether that's going to tick up or not over the next year or two, who knows?
Yeah.
But
and that was a question that I was writing down here. Like, what are the default rates on notes versus like being a landlord, being a traditional landlord? Like I would guess it's harder to keep your rentals full. As somebody who has a ton of them, I feel like it is. It's more than 5%.
Yeah, I would say it's more. And then the other thing, again, I've done rentals as well. When that does happen and somebody moves out, then I'm responsible to go in and fix whatever they broke.
Right.
So, maybe I get that damage deposit. Typically, that doesn't actually cover all the expenses that
never covers it. Right.
Besides that, every monthly payment that I'm getting, I'm having to set aside money for the next time I replace the roof, the next time I have to fix this, the next time I have to fix that. Property taxes, like I say, that's something you're still having to set aside with every payment.
Right. And there's no, like the tenant expects me as a landlord to fix the air conditioning and, whatever, patch the hole in the roof and replace the stove. Does any a borrower ever call you up and say, Nathan, there's a hole in the roof?
No, but if they did, I'd say, okay, good luck with that. Banks don't do that kind of thing. Banks don't fix things. You wouldn't call your bank and say, oh, I have this issue. I have a problem with the house. You wouldn't get very far. And it's the same thing. I'm acting as the bank in this situation.
Nice. I love that. So certainly feels like a lot less stress and pressure than being a landlord. So, I know a lot of people position, like professionals, like, hey, you should get into real estate investing and buy rentals, right? Because, doctors, lawyers, all of that type of stuff. It would seem like notes would be a far better place for them to invest.
It is a far better place. Like I say, I kind of hinted at it before. It's a different game. It's not exactly real estate. It's real estate related. And so it helps to have that background, but it's much more of a finance game. So make sure you understand the rules of this game because it's a different game. We're talking basketball versus soccer. So make sure you understand what the rules are.
So I do want to talk about like where you would even go to find a note, but I would imagine when you're presented with an opportunity, there has to be some underwriting or you need to evaluate it because surely not, even in your business, not all deals are created equal.
No, absolutely. I was just looking at some things today where somebody sent me over and, they said the monthly payment is this, and this is the interest rate. And that's all the numbers they gave me. I'm like, oh my goodness, I need way more information than that. When was the first date paid? When was the last date paid? When's the next due date? What's the maturity date? How long are we talking? Where is the property? And, there's a whole lot more that goes into it than just, how much money they're paying per month.
Right. So when you're looking at these notes, are they primarily like investor created owner finance type notes, or you're buying something maybe from a credit union or a bank? Like what are these notes that you're investing in?
Mostly now they're owner finance notes. They're going back in time a little while. It was a lot of non-performing notes where people were not making payments. Right. Those were primarily bank institutional paper is what we call it. So whether it was an actual bank or some other mortgage lender, that's the majority of where that came from. Today, I've switched over to performing. I'm getting older and lazier, and the owner finance is definitely the way to go.
Really? And those still have that same 95% payment rate?
Yeah, they do really well. And it's one of those interesting outcomes of the financial crisis that we went through, 2008, 2009, 10.
Mhm.
They instituted all kinds of new laws and all kinds of different underwriting criteria that
Right.
everybody has to abide by, even
And
though
that was Dodd-Frank.
that's Dodd-Frank. Yeah.
And do you feel like most of the people that are out there doing this and creating these notes on these properties, they're following that, and they've done the RMLO and the which is the residential mortgage loan origination. They're
Yeah.
making sure that these people are actually qualified buyers.
Mostly, we still
Okay.
run across those, down south somewhere, and well, my daddy did it like this, and you can't tell me what to do. And so we certainly run into that, but
Yeah.
the majority of people are coming around and they're
Mhm.
understanding, the reason for it. We get far better qualified people if we actually follow the rules. Imagine that.
Right. Yeah. And I would imagine it makes the loan worth more, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
and in some case it makes it a deal or no deal situation if it has not gone through an RMLO.
Mhm.
For example, if I'm going to buy that note, it actually restricts me in a big way. If later on I want to
Mm.
sell that note to a larger institution, I
Mhm.
can't. Those banks are bound by that. They have to be uh, RMLO certified. So
Right.
it makes it definitely much worth more for me.
So kind of like at a stressed house, would you look at that note and go, "Yeah, I'll buy this. You owe 70, but I'm going to give you 40."
Yes,
Like I'll
definitely.
roll the dice on it if you're, really desperate because you just did a bad job.
Yeah, it is. It's a bid situation, and yeah, we'll look at things like what's the paperwork look like behind this. Did you
Mhm.
actually use an RMLO? Did you use an attorney to write up the documents? Did you use an attorney that actually knows what they're doing to write up those
Yeah.
documents?
Yeah.
That's a different story. So
Nice.
yes, we look at all those things, and
And
it is there's a process for sure.
if somebody brings this file to you and they didn't do those things, can you do them after the fact, or is it like you missed your window?
Yeah, most of the time, yes, and especially part of the caveat on that is the borrower, the person living in the house making the payments, they have to be agreeable to any changes.
Mhm.
So we have to go back with them, and as long as we can come to a mutual agreement on
Mhm.
whatever changes might need to take place, and that could mean brand new loan documents. So as
Mhm.
long as they're okay with that, then that's fine. And most of the time that works. If they're not, then that can get tricky.
Yeah. I mean, and hopefully they will qualify it.
Yeah,
You don't want to go through all that and then turns out they never would have qualified in the first place, and now you've
yeah,
wasted everybody's time and probably
right.
people are mad.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Nice.
we do a lot of that homework up front and make sure that it is what we think it is.
Mhm.
So we don't get into any
So
zero.
we talked about things to look for in the note buying business, but like where do I go to find notes? Where do I go to buy notes?
It is a lot of networking, more than any other business that I've been a
Mhm.
part of. It is all about relationships. So it's,
Mhm.
who you know and who knows who, and who knows you, and making
Really?
sure that you know who you are, and then people can reach out to you and start,
Yeah.
they actually contact me and say, "Hey, I've got this note for sale. Is this something you're interested in?" So
Mhm.
it's great, but it's a lot of networking. There's a bunch of conferences out there. I've got one as well. And so definitely get out to conferences, meet
Oh,
people,
nice. Where's yours?
chat. Mine's in Nashville.
I think
It's
we're
actually
coming to
coming
that,
up.
right? I
I
think we're
think so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
we're going to be a sponsor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So
May
yeah,
2nd.
spoiler alert, like I know a lot about notes because our title company actually closes a ton of notes.
Yeah.
That's why yeah, that's why I have a lot of the right questions to ask here. So
Yeah.
I do actually think it's a great strategy. So so you say to buy these notes, it's a lot of networking stuff. There's no like Zillow for notes out there where I can just go, kind of look at some stuff or
There are a couple. There are a couple of kind of like online platforms you can go to.
Mhm.
PaperStack without a
Yeah.
K on there. That's a good
Mhm.
one. I actually have a loan for sale on there right now.
Yeah.
There's I'm blanking on the others, but there are a couple out there. And again, chat with people that are in the
Mhm.
business. They can point you in the right direction.
I love that. So, you can get very active, I guess, in your local real estate community and be the note guy, right? And just
Right.
let investors know. And maybe I would guess it would probably benefit you to sort of teach these guys how to how to do correct notes, right? So, like, hey, if you
Yes.
ever want to sell them, I'm your guy. Let me just show you how to do it right on the first side.
Yeah, a colleague and I, we do a podcast every other week, and this last year and a half, we've been
Mhm.
hitting that really hard at
Nice.
just creating your notes properly so that we can buy them, so that we can
Right.
buy them at top dollar and pay you more.
Right.
And I think that's helping.
Cool. Well, I'd love to have my partner Megan come on. She's the one that runs our title company, and yeah, we close notes all over the country, so that'd be great.
Yeah. Yeah.
So let me ask you this. I mean, we have just a couple of minutes left here, but
Yeah.
what are the things that really hold people back from from investing in notes, or maybe making that jump from single families and wholesaling, or whatever they're doing, or rentals, like, to jumping into notes? Like, I'm sure you've talked to a million people.
Yeah.
Like let's lay it right out there. Like, what are the fear factors?
Number one is they just don't know what it is or how it works. I
Hmm.
think that's like the main thing.
Yeah.
And again, I don't teach, but I can certainly point you in the right direction. I know some really good friends and colleagues that do.
Yeah.
But I highly recommend getting some education because it's different. But I think
Is
that's,
there any names you want to drop here on who some of the best teachers are?
oh goodness gracious, there's several. There's Note University is a really good one.
Okay.
Paige Panzarello, she's great. Eddie Speed with Note School, he's got really good information as well. So there's
Eddie's great.
several out there, and they're all fantastic.
Mhm.
And again, you can ask around. It's a small enough community
Mhm.
that you can ask around and say, "What about this guy? What about that guy?" And
Yeah.
we'll tell you.
Awesome. So yeah, so anything else that really holds people back?
Um, Time is a big one as well, where once you get into it and you realize, oh my goodness, this actually does take work. And I talk about it being passive and hands off. Yeah, but there is work involved. Finding the notes, making sure you understand how it works, all those kinds of things. And again, what happens when it doesn't go right? How do you deal with it? So there's definitely work involved, and so time is a big factor as well. So for that, like I've got a note fund. You can just invest into a fund where it's truly passive, where you can just step back and not do anything and let the operator, somebody like me, go ahead and do that. So that's a big one as well. Just making sure that you understand it and what happens when you need to actually do something. Those are kind of the two biggest ones, I would say.
Yeah. I think what's fantastic about real estate is, there's something for everybody. Literally, like, I joke all the time. I'm saying, like, if you want to be a doctor, you can be the eye doctor, the ear doctor, the nose doctor, the toe doctor, the butt doctor, whatever, right?
Yeah.
Like, you can specialize in whatever you want. And I feel like there's a lot of people who don't want to be the guy out knocking on doors. They don't want to be out talking to people all the time. They don't, they don't want to be fronting a bunch of money for marketing and hoping that it all works. But there's a segment that wants to be kind of real estate or real estate adjacent and in the business and make great returns. And I think note investing is perfect for those people. The people that are more the data driven, the analytical, like that personality type, man, can absolutely just crush it in notes. Man, when I start looking at spreadsheets for more than 10 minutes, I start getting twitchy and have to get up out of my desk and go walk around. But yeah, I think this is really just fantastic for them.
Yeah. And it is. Another thing I'll mention is it's a fantastic investment for an IRA. If you've got IRA funds sitting on the sideline, you can self-direct that and choose to invest into notes. And again, whether that's buying your own notes or into a fund, either way. And that's a very easy way to be involved without a whole bunch of the headaches that come along with real estate.
So if we got just a minute left, like if we want to be in notes, are there like services and softwares that can kind of help with the servicing and all of that type of stuff?
Yes, definitely. And companies like yours is a big one to help do those closings. And then the servicing is a big part of it. A lot of these down south folks where there's, this is what we've been doing forever, and they're
cowboy way.
Yeah. And they're just collecting checks every month, paper checks. And that's great. But me as a buyer, I say, okay, well, that's not a third party certified. How do I know? Not that I don't trust you, but how do I know that your books are not just a little bit cooked?
Cool.
So third party is a big deal.
So real fast, we just got like 40 seconds left. Tell it real quick. When's your event? Where can they find it? And then what's the best way for people to get a hold of you?
Yeah. So the event is called Diversified Mortgage Expo. If you just search that online, you'll see it. There's a website that'll give you all the information. It's May 2nd and 3rd in Nashville, Tennessee. And it's just a ton of fun. We love putting that on. My wife and I took it over a few years ago.
Nice.
If you want to get in touch with me, you can reach out directly, nathan@earnestinvesting.com, or you can feel free to call me, 860-3747.
Awesome. Nathan, thank you so much, man. I really appreciate it. We're right on the dot at 20 minutes. Appreciate all the info that you dropped here. And guys, make sure you reach out to Nathan and learn about notes.